Now, if you do like this, I have to mention, because it's called the call to action, and I think it actually works. Give it a like or subscribe so you can see more in if you enjoy it, and maybe help the channel out. Plus, leave a comment and give me your opinions on another show that you want me to cover. All right, so in the beginning, you see one of Rhaenyra's sons, Lucerys. And he's looking upon the table, which is a map of the entire realm, and he's having some doubts about becoming the new king of Driftmark, and he doesn't want the title. He says he's not ready and he's afraid to mess up. And it's basically the same way Rhaenyra felt when she was announced to be queen of the Seven Realms, and she empathizes with him, said that I was the same way when I was your age. I felt the same way. Now, as Rhaenyra comforts him, he had to admit that he's not like her. He's not capable of doing the things that she does. And when she says, not like me, what do you mean, in what way? And he says, perfect. Of course, this shows, obviously, how children revere their parents in such a great way, and how parents can keep up certain appearances around their children to where their flaws are not apparent. But that boy is wrong as hell. Now, Rhaenys comes in and informs Rhaenyra of the passing of her father, and immediately tells her about Aegon becoming the new king of the Iron Throne. She immediately starts to get labor pains, and under the stress of the news, I believe it forced her into a premature birth. Upon receiving this news, Dagon decided to take this news differently than Rhaenyra, because he is mounting up troops and making plans in order to go and attack and cause war in order to take the throne back by force. Whereas Rhaenyra is fighting a battle within herself right now in the pregnancy. She does not want any drugs, no anything. She's just standing up and leaning against walls and doing everything she can to try and stay, well, strong. And it's kind of hard to watch, honestly. The boys come in to try to get an update on the information as she informs them on what happened to their grandfather. And Jacaerys, she had to leave him with a bit of news and information before he walked out. And she said, make sure that nothing is done without my command. I am the queen. We do not ride for war. We do not kill anybody. And he took that as affirmation to go and inform Daemon right now that Mother said there will be no war and no one shall fight yet at all to keep peace in the realm. Meanwhile, Daemon's like, I don't care. And he proceeds to take the two Knights of the White Cloth that are from the king's land and threaten them with a dragon to be loyal to Rhaenyra. Now, of course, any person who would like to live and is not familiar with fighting and or surviving an encounter with a dragon, their obvious choice was, well, we cut back to Rhaenyra, and she finally gives birth to the baby. And of course, the baby was not alive. It was premature, and she did so standing right in the halls with no help from the nursemaids, and just right there plops it out. I don't need to go into detail. Next scene, she is now wrapping the baby up for burial and grieving over the body, while Daemon is grieving once again in a different way. He has his blade and he's walking out onto the shores with nothing to fight, but he fell to his knees in pain and agony, just doing everything he can to hold in all of his emotion. It's kind of sad, actually. Even though I hate this couple, I do feel bad for them. During the funeral of the new baby, a new knight shows up of the White Cloth. He reports in with a brand new crown with a Targaryen symbol on it, and he bestows it upon Rhaenyra as she is the new queen, not only of Driftmark, but also soon to be, as they hope, I believe, but hopefully not, the queen of the Seven Realms. In the next scene, you see that every person who was out there for the funeral, the children, grandchildren, and related houses that are already loyal to her, bend the knee and swear loyalty to her. Rhaenyra then reports back to the, I'm going to call this the war room because I'm not exactly sure, where the table is lit underneath in order to show all of the kingdoms. And basically, to sum up the things that she's been saying, is that we can make a plan for going to war, but we will not. We're just going to make sure that we know who our allies are before we cause any bloodshed. And it's her prime objective, I guess you could say, to make sure that the realms have peace and stay peaceful, as now in the status quo. In the next scene, Otto Hightower reports to Driftmark in order to inform Daemon and the princess, well, the now queen Rhaenyra, that Alicent does not want war or any bloodshed either, and tries to remind her with a childhood memento that there's no bad blood between us and I didn't do anything bad to your father. But Daemon is interpreting the entire happening as she killed Viserys and is trying to usurp the throne and steal it from her. It's apparently clear at this point that Daemon wants to stoke the fires of hatred in order to cause a war so that he may ride and do what he wants. It's very clear that he has an ulterior motive. It's even more clear that he's not in this for honor, love, or for dignity. He just wants to take, consume, and kill. Upon receiving this little token from their friendship when they were children, Rhaenyra agrees that there will be no war and she shall keep peace. She repeats it once again amongst everyone in the war room, but Daemon speaks out once again and he undermines her. So she asks everyone to leave the room. And she reiterates once again, I am the queen and this is how I'm going to do it. And he decides to grab her by the neck forcefully. He says, my brother was a fool. We didn't become kings because of honor and morals. We became kings because we have dragons. And that's it. It's in this moment that Rhaenyra realized that the Song of House and Fire was never told to Daemon. So he's completely oblivious to, I guess you can call it a prophecy that may take hold, while she is doing what she can to prevent it from happening. Next scene, we catch Rhaenys next to a sleeping and recovering Corlys Valorian. And it turns out that the ambush that he went into battle and found himself into an ambush, turns out that he came back with some injuries, of course, but he came back. Now, in this moment, Rhaenys and Corlys decides to get real with one another. And she says that you abandoned me when I needed you the most. We lost our children and almost everything that we have, and I had to mourn alone, etc. Baela and Rhaena are gone, and you left to go for an adventure at the sea, as has always been your way. Corlys clearly has received word of the new king, and Rhaena says that he casts a huge shadow over the entire family. And she also lets him know right then that his brother is dead. In surprise, he tries to get up and wincing in pain, and she informed him how he died. By the hand of Daemon. He had to admit that Hela's ambition had been the biggest flaw in Valerians since the dawn of time, I suppose. And by that, I believe he means that they're so unwilling to give up. They go further and further. They do not take any losses, no L's, that it becomes to their own downfall because they don't know when to submit. And it makes sense. He had to admit that their pursuit of the Iron Throne is at an end, and he wants to declare no war and retire to the high tide with the grandchildren. Then she had to remind him that those children are in danger because they are inheritors to the throne. And are you sure that they're going to just let them take the throne? Especially with Aegon on the throne, I do believe that that is a huge problem to worry about. Corlys then said that that girl, Rhaenyra, ruins everything that she touches, which is true. But then the still blind Rhaenys says that she's the only one keeping the realms at peace right now. And she may be true and right in that moment, but I don't like the fact that Rhaenys is like backing her up. But this would be their best move to have, is the best card that they can play. So I hope that there's something else down the line, because it makes no sense for a woman of a queenly mindset like Rhaenys to believe that Rhaenyra is someone to work under and with. It makes no sense. Now, Lord Corlys decides to join everyone else in the war room with Rhaenyra and the rest of the kingdom. And he said that it turns out his recent adventure came about to some great results. And he says that he gives the fleet of the Valorians to her full command and support. He then reports that his recent adventure made the entire Narrow Sea his. And they now have complete control to not only the supply and movement trade routes on the Narrow Sea, but even the resources that are going into the King's Landing, which gives them even more control of the entire land and all the 7 realms. Now, Rhaenyra said that we need to get support for Winterfell, the Eyrie, and Storm's End, and in that moment, the children speak up and said, well, we can take those messages for you because dragons fly faster than crows. Of course, they did say that the prince is right, says Corlys, and she looks, stares into the distance for a moment and says, very well, go ahead, and gives them the approval to carry these messages upon Dragon. Now, of course, she wanted to make sure that her children were safe because she's worried, like any mother should be. And she says that she wants them to swear on a book. I don't know what this book is, but it seems like an important book. to swear on this book that they would not participate in any fighting whatsoever. And of course they both do so. The children take off on Dragonback as Daemon walks into the underground caverns while carrying a torch and humming a peculiar tune. I don't really know which one. But he comes across this huge dragon that's underground spewing fire. And it doesn't look like his own. I believe he's using some type of magic in order to look through the eyes of this dragon in order to see what's going on with the children. It's almost as if he can see through their vision to other dragons' vision. I'm not sure. Lucerys reaches his location and decides to share the message, but it seems that they also have some company by the name of Aemon Targaryen. For those who don't remember, Aemon Targaryen is the one that they got into a fight with in previous episodes while they were children, and he was the one that cut his eye out. So, as he delivers the message to this king, and he said that the Prince Aemon has a pact to marry one of my daughters. Will you be marrying one of my daughters as a son of Driftmark and the queen? And he said, I am not free to marry, sir. I'm already betrothed. So he said, well, then you've come empty-handed and I'll have no part of you. And he said, well, I shall take your message to the queen. And then Aemon speaks up and says, wait, Lord Strong, I would like to fight you. I want you to do a favor and put out your eye. One will serve. And he throws a dagger to you. And he says, I will not blind you. In this moment, of course, Jacaerys says no, he doesn't want to fight, which is smart. But he was not Jacaerys, excuse me, Lucerys. Jacaerys. The juice! Anyway, so Lucerys readies his blade just to defend himself because Aemon decides to run toward him with a dagger of his own. But it was cut short and he was told to leave and do not fight. Lucerys then runs out as the rain is pouring down in a terrible storm. He then tells his dragon to focus, calm down, and obey as he rides off into the storm to get back home. And it's actually a beautiful scene. Like it's so, y'all know I love me some CG animation, okay? And they made this look so good that I can't get over it. The clouds, the thunder rolling in the background, you have the rain coming at them at high speeds, just splashing at their faces, and it's astounding. You have to see it for yourself. I highly recommend you watch it. Because at this moment, while he's flying, he's looking around, he's feeling suspicious, and above him, without him knowing, is this giant dragon, just a shadow, the silhouette of it, like peering over his, and just comparison by size. This is a fun size dragon he's riding on, and this one is king size. It's a ridiculous difference in size. So let's not say the word size anymore. I don't know why I'm saying size so much. Size. Anyway, they have a fight and they chase, but the advantage of having a smaller dragon is he decided to fly into a little, I guess you could call it a ravine or crevice or whatnot, a valley, and it's not enough room for Aemon's dragon to fly into. So of course he thinks he got away, but Aemon decides to keep tracking him down. But here comes Lucerys out of the blind side and flame right on the side of the dragon's face. But that might have been a mistake. Okay, I gotta stop saying but. Anyway, that might have been a mistake because as this beautiful CG shot happens where Lucerys comes out of the clouds and there's nothing but blue sky. It's all just white and amazing. They're above the clouds and just wind and silence. And the next thing you know, Lucerys turns his head and suddenly Aemon's dragon, he loses control of his dragon and it just roars and bites down on the entire small dragon into pieces, and the boy is immediately killed. Aemon didn't intend for that to happen at all. He lost complete control because the dragons decided they wanted to fight and they couldn't command them any longer after a while. So, of course, a person was watching this entire thing happen. That person was Daemon Targaryen. He went back to bring the news to Rhaenyra, and in that moment, Rhaenyra turns her back to speak in private with him. She starts to stumble and she starts to feel pain. And as she looks down at the ground, she fixes her posture. The camera zooms in to the back of her head and she slowly turns around, water in her eyes and anger in her face. Cut to credits. So, I'm going to give you all my full lowdown as to what happened in this whole episode and what I think happened. Now, my prediction is that Daemon actually had something to do with those two dragons in the fight. Because if you pay attention to the scene, if you go back and watch, you'll see that his eye started to zoom. They started to zoom in on his eyeball as he was speaking and singing to that dragon underground. And I think that not only let him see through the eyes of the dragons that were flying that day, but also control them. And I think that he's pulling puppet strings in private in order to force a war. And he knew that the number one way to make her want to go to war is for her to lose her child. This guy, Daemon, is incredibly evil, and he's not redeemable at this point. I thought that he had something going, or he, maybe he had some good, but I still couldn't completely co-sign on his character because of what he did in the brothel house a few episodes back. So that's just, he's completely off the table now. He's all the way off the deep end. Complete evil, so there's that. And it's insane. I feel like this is gonna be a great roller coaster in the future. But anywho, another opinion of mine is I don't think that the Valorians are as dumb or as susceptible as they seem. But even if they are, they're playing it smart. And even if they're not, they're playing it smart. So I like it. I'm a fan. Anywho's, y'all, that's everything that I can tell you. So thank you for coming by once again. Don't forget to do what you can to support the channel and get us to 100 subscribers. I really want to cross that threshold, and I really hope that y'all could help me with that. And thank you for listening. All right, catch you. Maybe next week we'll just dive into another show, because right now I think this is the season finale. And if it's not the season finale, then I'll see you next week for House of the Dragon. Y'all take care. Peace.